Hey guys, I think we're live. I'm gonna make sure that the audio is working before I get started. There's always such a long delay between, you guys know, and so I have to sit here and wait to find out if that delay, there we go, it's loading. See if there's audio. Yes, there is. Okay, we can get started. I'm kind of excited tonight because I've got a different camera setup than usual, and it appears to still be working. I haven't hit record yet. My normal camera that I use, my Canon video camera, I usually use for live streams a webcam, which doesn't give the best results. So I got an adapter. I'm able now to use the good camera, but this is the first time. Like, it just showed up about an hour before the live stream. Yay for Amazon's next day delivery, or I think that one was the same day delivery. So anyway, we may have some growing pains as we figure out how to use this camera for live streaming. So I kind of apologize, but I kind of don't, because in the end, it'll be good eventually. So let's go ahead and minimize this. I'm going to hit record, and we'll see if that keeps going. Let's get this out of the way, get the setup going right. There we go. And it looks like we are good. Okay, so I'm working in acrylics. I started this painting last night. It was actually, I had to come up with an idea really quickly because I needed to put up or publish when the live stream was going so I could do my email newsletter. It's a whole thing. And I didn't have anything ready to go. So I'm like, let's throw some paint on a canvas and see what happens. I have an idea that I'm going with something weird where I'm going to wrap a scene inside a scene inside of, I don't know. For tonight, all I've got to worry about is painting some dolphins. So that is the plan right now. So let's see. Yeah, I still have, Joseph said that the webcams usually have very harsh light. This looks like soft lighting, like a haze almost. Yeah, it's dark and I can't lighten it. Like I might be able to lighten it through this, but I can't through OBS like I normally do. So I don't know how, I don't know. We'll see. We may have to mess around with that in the future. I also don't know with the focus and all of that. Let's see. Michael asked how was kayaking. It was so much fun. We didn't end up going on Wednesday. We went on Friday, and I think I'm just now not as sore. Like, I need to start working out. Seriously. Like, I use muscles enough to edit video and paint, and that is the extent of the muscles that I'm used to using. So I have to, like, it was a good reminder of I need to get to the gym. So tonight is day one of, my husband and I decided we're going to try to do a 60 days, no matter what, no days off challenge type thing, like just get in the habit of going to the gym daily. So we'll see how that works. Let's see. Scrolling up. Do I remember, that fine art guy wants to know if I remember any remarkably bad old paintings of mine? Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. I probably have some hanging on my walls. Yeah, I definitely do. I've done videos kind of critiquing some of my old stuff, and I actually plan to do, I came up with some old stuff when I was showing a friend my old website. I found some really old stuff, and so I'm going to redo those same concepts with what I've learned since then, so that'll be actually really fun. I don't find bad paintings to be a bad thing. Like, I'm not embarrassed of them. I'm excited because now I'm glad I made some paintings that I consider now to be very bad. I loved them at the time, but I love that I have stuff that I didn't like, now looking back, are really bad, because now I can redo those and have like a before and after. And of course, before and afters, the more extreme they are, the more fun they are. So that I am actually really looking forward to. Okay, so painting dolphins. I don't have good reference photos, so I have kind of reference photos from Fixative, but they're not very good. So I just kind of have to experiment here. Let's go ahead and just get a base layer. I'm going to start with the dolphin that's on the back. I don't even know what color I'm trying to mix. I just need a base of something that's kind of a grayish, muddy, I don't know. Everyone gets so worked up about making sure the right color every time. You have to have the right color. You don't, honestly. You can see here, I'm like, I don't know what color. I'm just going to throw some color on here and see. We'll see what happens. I may like it. I may not. If I don't like it, I will continue to paint on top of it until I do like it. So it's easy to get super worked up. Ooh, the glare is terrible. I can't see what I'm doing. It's so easy to get really worked up and be afraid to mess anything up. You're like, it has to be the right color. So then you end up not progressing or experimenting. Don't let that sort of thing scare you. The worst thing that's going to happen is I don't like something and I paint over it. That's it. I might have a bad layer here and there, but in the end, I'll just keep painting until I like it. Got a little bit more water. My brush, it's actually a little bit dry here. I'm getting some dry brushing on the edges where it's not super smooth. So that just means I need to add some more water to that brush. Now I like to start with whatever is farthest in the back. That way I can be a little bit messy if I get some paint accidentally on the dolphin in front. It doesn't really matter because I haven't painted him yet. So I'm not hurting or messing anything up or causing more work for myself. Nothing like that. Let's see. Whoops. Miss Fairywood said, I'm using Polychromos, but I'm having problems getting parts of my drawing lighter once I have darker colors down. Any ideas on what I could change? Yeah, pick up some oil or some wax-based colored pencils, what you're using, or oil-based, and they're fairly translucent, so it's hard just in using Polychromos to get your lights back. Ideally, let the white of the paper show through. You want to protect that as much as possible if you do want to use just Polychromos, but if you want to put a lighter color on top, get some either, and I hate to say this, but Prismacolor is going to be more opaque. That'll show up. My favorites are going to be Caran d'Ache Luminance, or even the Derwent Pro Color have some more opaque colors. You can also, if you want to get a set that's actually fairly inexpensive, but it doesn't have a lot of colors, all the colors are light fast that are in it, are the Derwent drawing pencils. Those show up, they're super opaque, and they show up really, really well over your darker colors. I mean, it's not going to show up as well as like paint. Like I can take the gray paint and it's very, very light on a canvas because this is not, you can't even compare the level of opacity with acrylic paints and colored pencils, but it will lighten it if you use a wax-based pencil on top of those darker colors. Minnie Sea Star said, I've seen the Inktense tins that you designed when I was out shopping. So happy for you. Thank you so much. I get so excited when I see those. It's so, like, it's surreal. I mean, to go into an art store and see your artwork on something like that, it's not something that, I mean, that was, when they say beyond my wildest dreams, and that really, really was. That wasn't something that I ever expected to happen. I'm really excited it happened with a product that I like so much. So that's very, very surreal to go into a store and see my stuff there. Every time I go into an art supply store, I have to go look and see if they've got them in stock, just because I get so excited. I'm such a nerd. And the funny thing is, I know if I told the employees that work there, like, hey, that's my artwork, they'd be like, yeah, sure it is. So it's kind of funny. Not that the employees really care, but it's funny because no one, I mean, that's one of those things that no one would believe would ever happen type. I don't know if that makes sense. Let's see. That fine art guy said, that's awesome. I have a lot of interesting old anime drawings. I've been using a combination of reference pictures to transform into realistic pieces. Have you done anything similar? Not really, but I do want to draw, for those of you who are familiar with the video game World of Warcraft, that's the video game that I like to play when I have any free time. Or I actually usually will play it at night, like before I go to sleep, or in the mornings when I'm waking up. I'll do a few dailies just to, like, while I'm waking up, or to kind of wind down after I've been painting all night. So that one, I just screwed up this tail. I'll have to come back in and actually, this is one thing I like to do when I paint dolphins. I always I'm a bit more stylized when it comes to the fins. I always make them a little bit oversized. I don't know why. I just like the look better. But anyway, yeah, I have Murlocs from that game. So, like I said, those of you who know Warcraft know what I'm talking about. But I want to paint, like, realistic-looking Murlocs. So that's in my... And I'm going to paint that for myself since it'd be fan art. I wouldn't be selling or making prints. But I really, really want to do that. I just haven't done it yet. It's been one of those things I've talked about doing for a couple of years, and I just haven't gotten around to it. The Art of Joseph Fincham says, you have ID. No, you can prove it. What am I proving? I'm behind on that conversation. I don't remember what we were talking about, honestly. I hate when I do that. I'm like, once I start talking about something else, whatever I was talking about 2 seconds ago, out of my head. Amaris Joseph has said, I want to thank you, Urban Channel, I think there's a typo, takes me out of my comfort zone, and with me having autism, it's hard, but I've learned many things from you, so thank you so much. That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. I love, like, I get so excited when someone, I'm actually going to do more tutorials for beginners too, because I did one, it's on Patreon now, but it'll be, the shorter version will be here on YouTube soon. I did a video, like an intro to acrylic painting, and so many people have tagged me that they've done this fish, they painted that intro or followed the step-by-step tutorial. That is encouraging for me to see other people learning from those tutorials. So I'm going to do a few more, like, super beginner stuff in all kinds of mediums. I love that I can help people. Basically, with what I do, I want the channel to be what I would have wanted. Like, what would have benefited me when I started painting. And so that's kind of what I've been trying to do. It is a mess over here, and it's also really hot. I may have to get up and put the air conditioner on. We have storms coming in, so I opened up the doors, but the humidity is kind of killing me right now. Let's see. Oops, scrolled too far. Jesse asked, what graphite pencils would you recommend? I want to try something new. Faber-Castell, their 900 series, and the Derwent Graphics. The new Derwent Graphics are, when I say new, they've been out for like a year. They're improved, new and improved, really are new and improved. I like both of those, I would say, are my two favorites. Or if you want to go water soluble, the Faber-Castell, what are they? The Aquarelle, something Aquarelle. They're water soluble graphite pencils. Those are so fun to work with. Robert said, when you glaze over an acrylic underpainting, do you prefer a grayscale underpainting or color? I do both. It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I will go with grayscale. Sometimes I will go with like all sepia tones. Sometimes I'll go full color. It just depends on what I'm doing. I was actually tempted to go over this one with oils. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to use glazing medium and stay with acrylics for the whole thing. I don't know. I may change my mind because this is one of those I kind of know where I'm going with it, but only like halfway. The other half I have to figure out. So I may end up doing oils with that, and then in this case it would be color underneath. So it just depends. I wouldn't say I have a definite preference. Oh, Joseph said that my artwork is on the tins. I have my ID. I could prove it. Okay, I'm with you now. My nap was very short today. I'm going to use that as an excuse. Let's see. And there goes the scrolling. I really need a better way for that too. Let's see. There we go. Clarice, I'm waiting for this to dry, by the way. That's why I'm not painting right now. Clarice said, can you give any advice for someone just starting out on Instagram? Let's see. Post regularly. Post often. Don't use me as an example right now. The last like 10 days my husband was on vacation, and so I've not done hardly anything on Instagram. I'm a good example right now of what not to do on social media or on Instagram. So yeah, don't do what I did there, but post regularly. I would say twice a day is a pretty good amount of time. Post your artwork, post motivational things. You can post like art quotes on your artwork, something that would motivate others, something that somebody would be interested in. One of the problems that a lot of people make when it comes to social media is it's all me. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to what I did. If you really want to do something that's going to grow you faster or grow your account faster, what can you offer to somebody else that would help them? And this is across the board, no matter what social media you're working on. So like YouTube, when I started with YouTube, it was, here's me painting, look how cool my painting is. But I wasn't teaching, I wasn't offering anything that was of value to somebody else. Now, my point when I started was just to have something to embed onto my website. So there was a reason for that. But I mean, it didn't grow very fast until I started offering something to somebody else, offering lessons. Basically, free lessons are what's on YouTube. If you really want to grow, you've got to think, how can you serve those who are looking at your account? I see a lot of people on Facebook or different, well, all the platforms really, where everything's about, here's what I have for sale. Look at what I did. Look at this. And yes, we're going to do that to an extent, but you also have to think, what can you post that would be interesting to others? And I think that that's something that a lot of artists forget about. Like, what are other people interested in? So like I said, motivational things, funny things, you know, if there's something kind of silly or that happened in your day, you can share that, let people get to know you that way. But that would be I think my biggest thing there, or my biggest two tips is, what can you do that is interesting for others to watch, and post regularly. And use hashtags. That's the biggest, I left out the biggest thing. Hashtags, relevant hashtags. So like, you wouldn't want to put on this painting sunset, although there probably will be a sunset eventually on this. But like sunset, if someone's looking for pictures of sunset, this is not going to make them happy. Don't post non-relevant things. Post things that are relevant to what you're doing, but that might be interesting. Dolphins, wildlife, and I'm just using this as an example. Acrylic painting, it's kind of abstract right now, so I could use hashtag abstract acrylic painting or abstract painting. You use hashtags and look at what hashtags other people are using. I always laugh because I see this a lot with companies. This is still wet. You know what? I may as well paint the other dolphin while we wait for that one to dry. I'll see companies that will do these hashtags that are so irrelevant to anything. Like nobody is using that hashtag. Like one of my sisters does this. Like, don't want to talk badly. It's not really talking badly, but my sister uses hashtag. She made up names for her sons. I don't want to use it because I don't want people to go look up my nephews. But although they're freaking adorable. My nephews are the best. But anyway, she'll use hashtag Blanky Dashy. I'm using Blanky because I don't want to use his actual name. But she uses hashtags that nobody would search. They're not relevant to any search. It's like a waste of time. I guess if you're just being silly, it's fine, but it's not something that somebody would ever search for. That's not where those hashtags are going to be remotely I'm adding orange to this to muddy it up, but they're not something that anyone is going to search for. Look at do research on hashtags on what people do search for. So let's say you're painting flowers. What hashtags are people using for flowers? It's probably not flower dashy, if you thought that was funny. You think about what is relevant. I've also seen where people will do hashtags and they'll include any hot topic like puppy, even though there's no puppy. There's nothing to do with a puppy in their post. So again, going back to making sure you keep it relevant, but do a little bit of research on hashtags that people are using for art and see if any of those are relevant to your post. Don Hill wants to know where my favorite spot for pictures. I'm not sure what you mean for that. I need more information. Sarah Makes Art said she has autism too. So does my nephew, one of my nephews. And my nephew who has autism, he has Asperger's, he actually is like such the little artist. I gave him my color soft one, because you guys know I didn't really like my color soft colored pencils that much. I gave those to him, and that's like, I guess, his pride and joy. Like, he loves his fancy colored pencils that his artist Aunt Lisa gave him. So I've got to send him, I guess they're getting low, so I need to get some more pencils. I have to figure out which brand I want to send him. But get that edge nice and smooth. Yeah, a lot of people who have autism are really good artists. I've seen some amazing artwork. I'm not like I don't know how you guys are, but he will sit and when he is painting, he tunes out everything, or not painting, but drawing or coloring. He tunes out everything else in the world. Nothing exists to him. You can try to say his name to get his attention. Not happening. He is not going to pay attention to you. You don't exist. His crayons and his paper exist right now. It's so, it's really cool to see how much he's in tune with art, how much he connects to that. I think he's going to be an amazing artist as he gets older. Let's see. Luz, I apologize for saying that wrong. I'm sure I've got it wrong. Said, has there ever been a painting you decided not to finish because you didn't like the way it came out? I'm currently in that situation. A couple of times. Now, when I say a couple of times, I want to put this into perspective. There have been, I want to say 3 paintings that I didn't, 1, 2, maybe just 2. Well, 1 I painted over, so 2.5 we'll go with. In my life that I have done that. Now, to put this into perspective, I have painted thousands and thousands and thousands of paintings, and I am not exaggerating there. I'll see, but it's funny because I'll come across old paintings. I'm like, wow, I know that's mine, but I don't remember painting that at all. But I have painted a lot of paintings, and in that amount of time, 2.5. I didn't finish. 1 I just painted over. The other 2, I lost interest more than that they were bad. I probably could have made them okay. I don't recommend hitting a point where you're just like, oh, I don't like how this looks, so I'm not going to finish it. You want to break that habit, and I think all of us do that at some point. I mean, I've seen a lot of artists, especially newer artists, that do that. What is usually happening is you're not actually finishing it. You're not learning anything if you don't finish. Even if it ends up not being the most amazing thing in the world. I mean, when we're starting off, it's probably not going to be the most amazing thing in the world, but you don't learn anything unless you figure out. So let's say you're painting something, let's say you're painting a sunset and you just cannot get those clouds right. They look terrible, they're not blending right. What did you learn from stopping? You have to figure out how to make them look good. So now you both are figuring out how to fix any mistakes that are there and how to do it right in the first place. So maybe that means just painting over it and starting from scratch. Wouldn't waste the canvas, but don't, I got a chunk of paint. I'm just going to scratch that off to smooth out. The way that I flicked paint, I had a few thicker chunks there. But anyway, we see these memes all the time. Can you tell my brain is all over the place tonight? I'm tired. But we see memes all the time where artists are drawing and they get frustrated with it and they toss the paper behind them. They've got like a trash can full of wadded up paper. Do not be that artist. It's funny and I laugh at those memes too, but do not be that artist. That artist doesn't learn. That artist doesn't progress. That artist stays where they're at right now because it's too easy to always not be happy with whatever it is that we've painted. So you want to figure out how to fix whatever the problem is. Now, exceptions to that would be, oh wait, I thought of a colored pencil piece I have in a folder that's like halfway done. So we'll go 3.5 paintings. And again, out of thousands. But you want to be the artist that figures out how to fix the mistake. You want to be the artist that is a problem solver. That is what's going to make you progress and make you a better artist. Throwing things away, getting frustrated with something not looking good, you don't learn from that. Figure out how to make that look good. Just remember, as an artist, we are problem solvers. We're like, we experiment. We aren't, there's not like a math formula of this is how you do it every single time. There's so much experimentation that needs to go into art if you want to be good at it, that you don't ever want to hit a point where you're just like, I'm doing a bad job, I'm going to give up. And if this helps you, almost every single painting I ever do, I have that, I'm kind of having that moment right now because I don't know if this is going to work out for me. But always, always, always make yourself finish it. Even if you finish it and it's ugly, you learned from that. If you don't finish it, you learned nothing. So always finish your stuff. And the stuff that I didn't finish were from years ago before I realized that I was doing myself more damage than good. Mostly I just lost interest in the pieces. I got caught up doing something else, another art or painting, and didn't want to finish the one, which is one of the reasons why now I make myself finish one thing before starting another, with the exception of oil paints. If I'm working on an oil painting that's going to take a long time, I can work on the oil painting and something else just because of the dry time with oils. But other than that, I do not let myself get a lot of projects going at the same time. Otherwise, one of them I am almost guaranteed to lose interest on. That fine art guy said, I've been dipping my toes into watercolors and have found white quite useful. Do you have any opinions or insight about that? I know that there are a lot of watercolor artists who are very almost want to say religious about, or elitist, maybe that's a better word to use. Don't use white. They don't want you to use white. They want you to use the white of your paper showing through. I'm not one of those. I think if you find a white that works good, do it. I have in the Derwent and the Karen Josh watercolors that I've been using, or watercolor pencils, they both have white that I love. I love the look of that. So I don't see anything wrong with it at all, but I'm definitely not one of the elitist watercolor artists. So somebody else I'm sure will give you a much different opinion than what I'm giving you. My attitude about things like that, anything with art, where you'll have people like with graphite, you'll have elitists that say, don't use blending stumps, don't use blending or shading tools, don't use erasers, don't use whatever. My attitude, I'm more worried about my end result, whatever my end painting looks like, than I am the process of getting there. I don't care what process somebody uses to finish a painting. An awesome painting is an awesome painting. Whatever tools you used don't really matter too much to me. I mean, it's kind of like if I go shopping for a car, I'm more worried about the car, not the tools made to use the car. As long as the car, does what it's supposed to do, runs well, all of that. I don't care what tools they used. Oh, he used Craftsman versus, I don't know, I can't think of another tool name. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't care what tools somebody used, other than my own interest of, ooh, I want to do that too. But I never found, I mean, if it looks good, I say go for it. But then again, I've never had that elitist. I mean, when you teach yourself, you kind of experiment with everything. So I never had somebody telling me do not use certain things until I joined art forums, and you read comments from people and you're just like, I mean, if you want to limit yourself, go for it. I don't. Let's see. Whoops. Judy said, I saw you had a shirt with a Murloc on it. I play WoW now, and while I listen and watch you paint. Aw, fun. How did you paint the canvas background? Now, I did record it, so that will be on the video when the full video goes up. But basically, I sprayed the water. The canvas is very smooth. It's a Frederick's Blue Label Ultra Smooth Canvas. Just for transparency, I am sponsored by Frederick's, but they were already the only canvas I used. So with this one, it was a very, very smooth canvas. So I misted it with water, and then I painted my teal color on there, and you can see I left the brush strokes, like there's a lot of water mixed in with this. And then I flicked paint, I let it dry, I put another layer, I just basically made a mess with a spray bottle and flicking. I used a single, I don't think it's up here anymore, it's a fairly large paintbrush that I applied it with. But I just wanted texture, or not texture so much that you feel it's pretty smooth. I've got a few bumps here and there, but I wanted that visual texture for the background for this, because my plan is to have a sunset, like a ribbon of sunset working through this that will be realistic. I don't know if it's going to look very good. We're trying it. I won't get that far tonight. Let's see. Okay. This guy. Okay, so here's the thing about acrylics. If they, like, this guy's dry to the touch. I can do this and no paint comes off, but because I can feel that the temperature of it is a little bit cooler than this, that is one of the indications you can get that it's not 100% dry. What would happen if I went on top of this and started blending and shading with new paint? This first layer will lift off and I'll get these clumpy almost holes. It will look terrible. So that's why I've got to sit there and wait and wait and wait. And actually, I'll just use a hair dryer and go ahead and speed this along. So plug your ears. This is going to sound unpleasant. Now, when you use the hair dryer, this is now hot to the touch. I don't want to put paint right on this. Acrylic's already dry too fast. Let that cool off to where it's, back to room temperature. Because of the image, you can't see the dolphin tail. Let me go ahead and slide that a bit. Actually, let me see if I can readjust. I mean, I'm not going to do much with the dolphin tail, so it's not a huge deal. Actually, I have a better way. There we go. We don't need this. And I can enlarge this a little bit too. I don't need that all the way over there. Much better. I forgot I had this initially set up. Oops. Let's see if that's going right. I had it originally set up I was going to work on the dolphin up front and change my mind. So, yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I did not move that the way it should have been. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, I think we're good. I can start putting highlights and shadows on this. So what I'm going to do, my highlights, one of the things we're always worried about are our brush strokes in acrylics and trying to blend things out. I've learned the more layers you do, it's going to smooth by glazing on top. So my first layers, I don't have to worry that much about them being too smooth as long as I'm going to put glazes on top. It'll tone things down, it'll pull things together. Like even here, this background, I'm going to end up using probably glazing medium and some more teal. It'll darken up some of the white spots, but it's going to give me more of a glow, the way that the light will refract through that. So you won't see it so much on video, you'll see it in person, it'll look better. But what I can do, like here, there's a lot of brush strokes. When I'm going to do enough glazing, it's not really going to matter. And here as well, my background, see how my background's showing through here? It's not because the colors that I used weren't opaque enough. It's because I mixed so much water in with them. That made them more translucent. So that's, yeah, that's cool enough. Yeah, Sarah has a good point. She said, you can say the same thing about music. If it sounds good, it doesn't matter what the musician used to create it, whether computer, synthesizer, or traditional instruments. I am with you on that. Okay, so I'm really just going to focus on him. I just put him there because I was waiting for paint to dry anyway. So this guy back here is kind of dark. I'm going to pull more of that teal color. Let's get a little bit of black in there, darken it up. Heck, let's throw some purple in there too. I'm just making mud, honestly. I worry about my values more than the colors. I can tint the colors to whatever I want later on. My values are what matter to me. How light my lights are, how dark my darks are. So this guy has a dark area that comes across here. This light is giving me a horrible glare. Like right in the wrong spot. See if I can move that so I can actually see what I'm doing. I apologize if this ends up making it a little dark for you, but there we go. The glare, I couldn't see what I was doing. That's one of the problems with filming sometimes. I'll get the glare to where it's not so bad for me, but it makes it horrible for you guys. So I apologize if that just made it worse. Now, I don't need this, I'm not even looking at the right dolphin on my reference photo. I've got a reference photo of like 20 dolphins and I'm looking at the wrong one. Oh well. But I don't need this to be absolutely perfect, everything in the right place. I'm going to do so many layers over him that I just need to go for close. And he's got a huge shadow on this fin. While that's still wet, well, it's starting to dry, but it's semi-wet. Let's go ahead and add this in and let the light and the dark blend together there. But see how the brush strokes, you can still see them. I mean, I'll minimize them as much as possible, but I don't need to sit there and make sure everything is perfectly blended. That was something that I really did a lot when I first started painting. I thought everything had to be blended. Basically, once I learned how to paint wet into wet, I thought everything had to be blended wet into wet, and it just doesn't. I don't think that it necessarily makes anything look better. It actually sometimes I think looks better if it's not perfectly blended. Just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, I need to rinse that light color off my brush because I want to use the same brush, and now I can go down to the dark. When I mixed into the lighter color, I just added, I could use what was on the brush and then added white to it. But here, with the white that was on there, that would have made this way, way too light. It would have given me a very muddy look for the tail here. So that's why when I switched back to dark, I went ahead and rinsed that brush off. Bimbo asked, what method would you suggest to get the white streak strands when drawing hair with a lot of highlights in graphite? Like black curly hair being hit by the sun or a flash. What you have to do when you look at hair, you want to look at it as abstract shapes. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make is to look at it as hair and try to draw perfect looking hair, you know, every individual strand. I don't like the look. Now, I have seen where people will draw, that glare again, will draw more of the individual strands, but it usually ends up coming out looking like zombie hair, like something that hasn't been washed ever. So I recommend look at the shapes and shadows where the highlights are, and especially on curly hair, look at where your highlights, where your shadows are. Don't look at it. Don't try to make curly cues. I have a video somewhere that I show you the difference, how to and how not to draw hair. But you want to look at the shapes and shadows. I think if you just look, and I did one in graphite showing you how to draw hair too. That one I think would help. There's a video somewhere here on YouTube that I did with that. I'm sure it's in my graphite playlist, but learning how to look at the shapes and shadows, the highlights, and that instead of individual strands will look better. As for the white strands and highlights, ideally I try to leave the paper showing through as much as possible and then let the dark come in between. Sometimes if you take a Tombow mono eraser, depending on how dark the rest of the darks were, you can highlight and pull out some of those strands. And the Tombow mono eraser, I have the one that's round, but they also have one that's got a square edge. That one's really nice for getting crisp lines, so that can work for you too if you didn't jam too much, like push really hard, or you kind of burnished in the dark areas yet. What are my thoughts on mixing or combining graphite and colored pencils? I think it looks really cool, but when I mix the two, I do it as a portion of the painting is completely black and white. That's where the graphite is. And then the portions that are in color are completely colored pencil. The two don't play super well together. The graphite is too slick, so it doesn't give enough grip for, or texture for the colored pencil to stick to. So it's not something that I really layer on top of each other too much. There'll be a little bit of crossover, but not much. What I typically like to do is keep the black and white portions all in graphite. I think if you go to my website, lachri.com, under the gallery, go all the way to the bottom, there should be an old, I think I still have an old Italian greyhound drawing that I did. The flowers are in color, and then the dog and the background were in graphite. That's how I like to mix the two there. Valerie said that she has the square mono eraser. Joseph says, I never had mono. You are lucky, sir. I had mono, scarlet fever, and strep throat at the same time. I thought I was dying. I wanted to die. That wasn't fun. I got it from, funny enough, they say it's from kissing. I got it from accidentally drinking out of a girl that I worked with at a pizza place. We had our cups sitting next to each other, and she was out from having mono, came back, and she was better. But I grabbed, all the cups looked the same, and so I grabbed the wrong one. I was expecting root beer, and I got tea. That was a shock, and more so was when I came down with mono, scarlet fever, and strep throat. No fun. Let's see. Have I ever cross-hatched with paint? What would you recommend? Acrylics or Inktense, I think, would work really well for that style. You need something that's going to dry pretty quickly so you can keep working in that style. Let's see. Okay, I'm still waiting for that one to dry. I guess I can go ahead and start on the shadows on this guy. I really didn't want to work on both at the same time, but I guess that's what's happening tonight. Because I'm too lazy to grab the hair dryer. I think I'm going to start with the go dark to light again. But see how, I don't know if I can stress enough to you how careless I am with mixing colors here. I'm like, yeah, let's throw some of this, let's throw some of that. It doesn't necessarily make sense why I'm grabbing what I'm grabbing, because I don't know why I'm grabbing. I just need it to be dark and bluish, maybe purple greenish. I don't care, as long as it's dark. That is how much thought process that goes into it for me. Don't overthink and stress yourself out about color. I can tint it and glaze it later and make it look however I want. This is all going to be messed up. I've got to add highlights later on. But this, I'm just making a mess. I'll have to redraw out where the eye is going to go. This guy's getting hit by the light a little bit, well, a lot different actually, because the way he's twisted up. Someone yelled at me once for gender identifying an animal. They got mad at me on my video and told me I needed to not use gender pronouns on animals. I thought it was hilarious. Actually, it was on my octopus. They were mad about Sir Scooter. I called it a him, and apparently that was offensive to somebody. People are weird. There we go. Joseph said the worst thing he ever had was the flu and Giardia. You know, there's vaccine for Giardia. Well, there is for dogs. I don't know if it works on people. We used to vaccinate for that. For those of you who don't know, I used to work at an animal hospital, and part of what I did there was working the vaccine clinics. It wasn't fun. You'd think working with animals would be fun, but you don't really work with animals. You work with people who are rude and mean. Aiden said, so I recently went through a website called Giclée today for print. I was really impressed with the print, but I have seen the word elsewhere. What does Giclée mean? It's a type of printing process that they go through. It's the way that it's printed. It should be very good. It typically costs a bit more. I don't know the details. Like, I can't give you the science behind it. I know that they're supposed to be very good. Or I don't know that company, but I mean, Giclées in general are supposed to be a higher quality print than like a regular poster. And that is the, I don't know if it's the inks that they use or what it is, but that is the extent of my knowledge. I can make something up for you if you want, though. So this, see how it's starting to dry right in the line there. Now, one thing I could do if I wanted that to stay wet for blending purposes, I could take my airbrush and keep water misted on it. I mean, well, it's not dry enough that I can't work through it here, but I'm too lazy for that too. It doesn't really need it. It's not that big of a deal. But if you run into problems where your acrylics are drying faster than you want, get an airbrush. It's just a cheap hobby kit. And I am going to be making a video really, really soon. I'm going to buy one for myself and do a like step-by-step tutorial on using the cheap hobby kit. But using an airbrush to mist water will keep your painting wet long enough so that you have plenty of time to blend. And no, a regular spray bottle will not work because it gives you too heavy of water droplets that when you go to blend out will lift the paint. It pulls it off the can and it makes a mess. Gail Perkins says, wow, no gender for animals. That's a new level of stupid. I remember as a kid, random story that has nothing to do with art. I was in gymnastics when I was younger. And there was a girl, her family had just gotten a dog and they were having trouble training it and all. She was going through different things, and I was asking, well, did you spay or neuter it yet? Because sometimes that will help with different things. I think the dog kept running away, or it was something like that. So, I'm going through, talking through it, and she asked what spaying and neutering was, and I explained, neutering is the term we typically use for males, spaying for females. And she goes, she didn't know what gender the dog was because she was too embarrassed to look. Like, what? What? So, yes, some people have no idea if their dogs are male or female. Because I get cats, because cats are a little bit harder for, it's not as obvious as a dog. But yeah, she had a dog, and her and her family thought that was inappropriate to look, so they had no idea if they had a male or a female. And so what I'll start doing, like, see here, I've got a lot of brush strokes, like this light area. It's not exactly what I want, but I'll just keep layering until it looks like I'm not going to freak out and try to redo it. And I've seen where people who are newer to painting, they'll look at something that's not blended as well as they wanted it to be, and they'll think that they ruined it. It's not good enough. Just keep layering. It's fine. It's not going to hurt, like, long term, not hurting anything. The more layers you do on a painting, like when you're doing a lot of glazing like I do, the more layers, the more realistic it looks, because you end up building I missed a call. You end up, from my mom. And then swear words from my husband from somewhere reason. Hold on, let me look at this. But you end up building more depth the way that the light refracts through each layer. Hold on one second. My husband sent me a meme saying, never mind, I don't want to ruin the movie for anybody in case they haven't seen Avengers. But it was a funny meme he just sent me. Okay, let's see. I need to get this tail. The back end of this needs to be really dark. Let's see. Lee said, I used powder blender for the first time. Oh my gosh, it has nearly killed me. I'm forcing myself to finish it. I think I may burn it. Learning curve is straight. Yeah, seriously. When you start, like if you, especially I think if you've been using colored pencils for very long, if you're used to them, when you start trying to use powder blender, it is so different. Like the first time I used it, because I was using it completely wrong, I ended up having to contact Aliona, the person who invented it, and having her help me because I'm like, this isn't working. But it was user error. But anyway, the first piece I did with it, it was like, this isn't really saving me time. I don't think I really like, you know, I don't know. Oh, I just thought of a second one. That one was so I are now 4.5 pieces I've not finished. And it was because I used the wrong paper on that my first attempt with powder blender. I ended up having to throw that out because I was using the wrong paper. There was no fix to that. There was no reason to finish it. But yeah, no, there is a serious learning curve, but don't give up. One of the problems that I think a lot of people have when they do something like that is they think that it's going to be like, okay, you've been using colored pencils for a while, you use odorless mineral spirits, and it's like, oh wow, this is amazing, but you're still using your same techniques. When you work with powder blender, it is completely different. It's like a new medium altogether. So a lot of people can get very frustrated with that, but if you can stick through it, it is so like, oh, it's so amazing to work with. But it took me quite a few pieces before I was really comfortable. The second piece that I did, the one that you guys saw the video on, that one was better, and I could see where I was going to like it, but I still wasn't very comfortable with it. It wasn't until I did the cherries, which was maybe 4 pieces that I tried. Once I got to like the 4th, I started to understand how to spray, how to do, you know, how often to spray the texture fixative and all of those things. But yeah, that did not start out really well for me. And it was user error was my problem. It was just, gosh, that learning curve. You are not kidding. Whoops. Will said, how do you reverse engineer a painting to learn from it where the artist is not creating how-tos? Well, you can't. I mean, unless you can see how they're doing it, it's not... You can tell what they're doing in certain things, but for the most part, the easiest thing to look at it is whatever is farthest back and work your way forward. But unless they're showing you, I mean, there are certain things that you're just not going to you're not going to know. There's like 20 different ways, and I'm not exaggerating there. There's so many different ways to get to the same end. So even if you figure out how to make the same look that artist was doing, it may not even be the same technique that you're both using to get the same look. So there's no, unless you see the way they're doing it, it's not even guaranteed to figure out that you'll know that's the way that they did it. But practice is a big deal. Like seriously, the more you paint, the more stuff will start making sense, but you may never figure out what their techniques were. Gail has 2 Shih Tzus. My mom used to breed them. They're really cute. Don't get them too excited though. They'll roll over and pee on themselves. Seriously. But really cute. Minus peeing on themselves. Actually, I think only one of ours did that. It was kind of annoying. Super sweet dogs, though. Really cool. I love the coat on a Shih Tzu, too. I used to do the top knot on them. Let's see. Aiden said he still hasn't seen Infinity War. I've been watching A Quiet Place over and over. Okay, I'm so glad that I did not just read out that meme because it would have given too much away. I'm really glad I stopped myself for you there. Mitchell said, is there anything mindset technique that you had to unlearn to go from colored pencil to acrylic? I was doing them both at the same time. So it wasn't like I learned one and then went back and learned the other. Those were 2 mediums that I really... I took my senior year in high school. They put me in AP Studio Art, which was, you didn't learn anything. They were just like, here's the materials. You're going to use this material. Here's your theme. Go paint what you want or draw what you want. And so, colored pencils was one we used a lot. Charcoal, oil pastels, acrylics. I mean, and they just supplied the stuff for us. They weren't teaching anything. And I probably learned more from that than anything else. But... yeah, I learned them both at the same time, so I wouldn't say there was anything I had to unlearn. For students, though, backing up in how many students I've taught where they learned one or the other, the big thing for colored pencil artists is that you have to learn how much you're going to be able to lighten stuff up. or making sure you know, start on the light end of things and then darken things up, because you can't easily get them as bright as you want, whereas acrylics, it's no problem to, you know, if I want this bright white, paint bright white on it, it is bright white. With a colored pencil, for somebody who is going back and forth between the two, you have to learn where that balance is. Bethany says my 70-pound German Shepherd rolls over and pees on herself too. Okay, that is way worse. That is a much bigger mess to clean up than a Shih Tzu. That's hilarious. Well, hilarious because I'm not the one who has to clean it up. Dogs are so funny. Let's see. Gail said, do you know if I can use Krylon workable fixative with powder blender? Not the same. I do not recommend it because it's not really meant for that, and it doesn't add texture. Like the colored pencil texture fixatives add texture so that you can continue layering. You have to be able to have texture in order for that product to work. That stuff makes it too almost slick. It's not really a work. I wouldn't recommend it. You're not going to get the same results. Sedant asked, oh, where did that question go? Is baby oil as a good substitute for mediums for polychromos? No. No. Do not, like, crafters can get away with it. So let's say, I'm going to let that set and dry for a minute. Let's say that you're working on a card, a gift card for somebody, something like that. You don't really, it's not as big of a deal if your art materials are archival or not. But a painting, and a colored pencil piece, that is supposed to last a really long time. You add baby oil and it's not. You just ruin the archival qualities of that. And then you spent all that money on the polychromos, and now you're going to use, I mean, you can get some interesting results, but I would never sell the work with it. Baby oil never really dries quite right all the way. It doesn't behave right with the paper. It causes a lot of problems. You do not want to use baby oil. Same thing like hairspray. One of the things that in schools, I remember being told this in high school, you could use over your graphite pieces or charcoal, just use hairspray. No, it's not archival. It's going to yellow over time. It's not meant for art, so it's not meant not to yellow. It's not meant not to cause some of these problems. So you don't want to use, I mean, you can use household items to an extent. Like I have Q-tips here that I'll use for cleaning things up here, but like for wiping things, blending things, that's one thing. But I don't want to use household items for anything where I'm actually, like, it's going to stay on the painting, because you ruin the archival quality of it, and you want your artwork to last. So if you're doing it just as a craft to have fun, go for it. Whatever you enjoy doing is totally fine. But if it's something that you're going to sell, something that you want to last, no, definitely not. And because it doesn't dry right, you can't just go on top and keep layering like you normally would. You end up damaging the paint. It causes so many problems. So no, don't do that. Good question, because I do know that a lot of people, I mean, kind of like the hairspray thing, just use hairspray on your graphite. No, a lot of people do it, but no. Jennifer Kent said, what is your favorite paper to use with Inktense, and have you ever used the water aqua brush pens with Inktense? I have. I actually have one. Like these ones, do you mean? Like Derwent, oh, it's empty. Oh no, there's a little water in it. I have these from Derwent that I love. And yes, I do use those sometimes on Inktense. I use them a lot when I did the watercolor pencils. For a paper, I used to really like the Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press 140-pound watercolor paper, but the new batch of that, they changed it, and it's just not, it's not as good anymore. Not for colored pencils is okay, but for water, it warped really bad. It wasn't holding its shape. It did it's not my favorite anymore. So I'm now playing with arches, and I only tried it so far with the water-soluble graphite. That I loved, but I'll be trying that with Inktense. I have a feeling that that's probably the paper that I'm going to start using now for Inktense and watercolor pencils. I'm like 95% sure that's going to be my new paper for that medium. Arthur said, just being curious, do you prefer to paint with acrylics or oils? Usually acrylics, because it's not just lazy, it's a speed thing. It depends on what I'm doing though. If I'm going to paint a portrait, hands down oils. Getting skin tones to blend the way you want to, all of that, I hate, like seriously, all the way oils for me on that one. But for most other things, I usually prefer acrylics just because of the speed. I can get a painting done so quickly. I mean, this painting I could have, if I started in the morning, I could have it done by the time I went to bed if I didn't do anything else. But I mean, you can get so much done so quickly with acrylics that you can't with oil. You've got that dry time that you have to stop and wait, and I'm just not patient. So that's honestly my main reason that I prefer acrylics is just the dry time. Plus I can use the airbrush with this, but then the dry time, they both have their benefits. They're both nice. I'm glad that I know how to use both, because there are certain times where I really want to use oils, even though I normally will go with acrylics. So Oh yeah, Zisadon said, thank you, Lisa, you opened my eyes. I've been using that hairspray till date because my teacher's advice. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know why so many teachers have told their students the hairspray thing. It is like, I mean, it works, but they're not, I guess they're, because they're students, they're not worried about what happens over time. But the problem is that that information that we were taught early on, we take with us throughout our career. So you'll have people who've been painting for 50 years who still think using hairspray is a good idea. And it's not. And the funny thing is, hairspray is, well, I mean, there is cheap hairspray, but you're not really saving much money, and you're using a far, like, that's not what that's meant for. So, yeah, I really wish teachers would stop telling students to do that. Okay. That guy back there feels pretty good. I should be able to do another layer. There's horrible glare. Let's see if I can improve this for both of us right now. Oh, you know what, my orb. Let's see, hold on. If I raise it, the problem, I think I've got my canvas up too high for the light. They're too close together, which causes, that looks a little better for both of us. Okay, I think we're good. We can move on now. Let's see. Good question. Oh, Nikki said, are you using a retarder in your paint? Mine dry out quickly. No, I am not, but the paint, there's a couple of things they'll make a difference for that. One is obviously your humidity. It is super humid in here right now, so it is taking a really, like, annoyingly long time, more than I'd like it to take for some of this to dry. But the type of canvas that you're using is going to make a big difference. If the canvas, certain gessos that are used, it's almost like the paint absorbs into it. It feels like it dries almost instantly. The other thing will be the type of paint that you use. The Liquitex Basics, this is one of the things that I like so much about it. They tend to dry a little bit slower. There's, I think, a lot of binder in it, more than pigment, but they dry super slow, whereas like the Liquitex Heavy Body, dear God, those dry fast. I mean, they're almost, brushstroke, it's like it's drying as I make the brushstroke. And they'll dry on the palette really fast too, whereas these will stay wet on my palette for a fairly long time. So, there are a lot of things that'll make a difference there. What I do, versus the retarder, because I've played with the retarders before. I don't like them. They make the paint feel like goopy. I just never like them. I like water for thinning my paint. But what I'll do is take the airbrush and you just mist water. And you don't have to use an expensive airbrush kit. You can get the cheap, Badger makes one. I think I have it on my supply list over on my website. If you go to Lachri.com under acrylic painting supplies, I should have a link to the Badger one that I use, or you can look it up on Amazon. I don't know if I have it in this video description, but it's got a can of propellant that you just hook up the hose to it and you can mist it. You can keep it wet for hours and hours and hours if you wanted to, but it doesn't make the paint goopy like a retarder does. I've just never liked the results that I got with the retarder for the style of painting that I'm using. Now, if I wanted to do kind of abstracty clouds type thing, I might like the retarder then, because the goopy paint would actually work towards that look. I think a lot of it will depend on what type of look that you're going for. My biggest recommendation would be to try it. See if you like it. It might work for what you're trying to do. For me, it's not a good choice. Gail asked if I remember when Prismacolor was called Barrel. I actually think I still have some of my old ones that have the barrel mark on it. We just aged ourselves. My ones from high school, I still have the original set from high school. They let us, I think they gave them to us. They must have if I had them, because I wouldn't have stolen them. So they must have given them to us. But I still have that set, and it has barrel on it. Do I have... Amaris asked if I plan on doing any watercolor video. I have a watercolor pencil video that I've got to record the intro for. I'm hoping to have it up this weekend. So, yes. I mean, if you can't watercolor pencils, watercolor. Although, the Caran d'Ache watercolor pencils are more, I'd say they're more gouache, would be a more appropriate name for them than watercolor. Gail said, have you ever tried using airbrush medium instead of water to mix or thin down your paint? That's what I've been using with heavy body. It works great. I have not. I always just used water. Okay. Let's get some work done. And actually, I'm going to start on this guy. I'm going to start adding the rays of light on him because I want to get a specific look that I'm going to try for. And if it doesn't work, I'll just glaze over and repaint it. So let's start putting some of those in. And I don't want to just jump straight to white. I'm going to mix this in with some of the color I've been using. Mixing some water in with that. The brush that I'm using here is a synthetic hog-haired liner. This one is a number 4, so it's one of the bigger ones that I think it's a 4, yeah. One of the bigger ones that I use. And I want to make sure, as I add the rays of light coming on these guys, this is going to be really light, yeah. I want to make sure that they curve so he doesn't look super flat. And I'm going to glaze and paint over this, so if this comes out too bright, it doesn't matter at all. Let's just get, I want some of these to be thick, some to be thinner. I'm just kind of veining off of this. If you guys have not already, check out our moderators today. We've got Joseph, The Art of Joseph Fincham, and Valerie, Drawing with Fire. Both of their channels are linked in the video description. They've got some really cool content. So, you know, definitely want to go check them out just because it's cool anyway, but also as a thank you for helping me. So the more I paint, the more I'll start correcting, like the more layers, I'll start correcting little things that are not quite right. Like little lines like here that I missed on the tail. And sometimes a line will just be too dark, or I don't like it. I'm just going to stick my finger in it. Just kind of smudge that. If you're working in oils, don't use your fingers. You want to use a brush in that case, because a lot of the oils still have really toxic stuff in them, but all the paints that I'm using here are non-toxic, so it doesn't matter if they get on my hands. Actually going to line the top of his head first. Now this is not an outline. I think that's an important thing to realize there. Don't outline stuff that you want to look realistic. It's a highlight. See how I'm pulling that highlight in and down? So it's not really staying as an outline. And I'm slightly curving most of these. And what I'll do is just continue building up until I get it how I like it. Like I'm going to come back through with darker bits, and I want to get some purples and oranges. I want to get a lot of different colors in here. So now that he's starting to get a little bit more shape, to define his head a bit, he's kind of turning away from the viewer back here. So his, oops, that is way too bright. The wind is really starting to kick up out there. Now, one of the things that I made mistakes of early on when I would paint whales and dolphins, when I would do the rays of light, I would just jump straight to titanium white. You don't want to, because you can't go lighter from there. You want to be able to build that up and get lighter, you know, little bits of it will be lighter, but not much. Even this is a bit on the light side, and I'll end up glazing to tone that down. I want to thicken some of these up. I want to get a bit more variation there. get a little bit of backlighting here. Jessica wants to know if I've gotten any more plein air painting. I haven't, because my husband was off. Oh, my husband's been on vacation for the last 10 days, so I haven't really gotten much work at all done. Well, actually, that's not true. I worked like crazy getting some Patreon updates, because Patreon released a new plugin for their website so that it works with WordPress, which is what my website is. So I'm able to have my Patreon content on my own website behind that, or you'd have to sign into your Patreon account. So I worked like crazy getting that done the last week. But besides painting, I haven't gotten any painting done until I finished the peacock. If you remember from 2 weeks ago, that one in markers, I finished that 2 nights ago. It was the first time I picked up my art supplies in over a week. So no, I have not unfortunately gone out at all, but I need to, because it's really nice here now, or outside. Well, maybe not the next few days because we've got storms, but which is also nice. Actually, maybe I'll go paint out on my balcony in the storms. I'm liking this idea. I think that is going to happen tomorrow. Okay. I think he's good until I do the next glazes, so I'm going to leave him. And this guy needs a lot of work with shading before I start with glazes. So I'm going to rinse this brush out. Remember, when you rinse your acrylic painting brushes, don't leave them sitting in the water. Rinse them and set them to the side. You leave them sitting in the water for any length of time, like 30 seconds is enough to start damaging the brush, so don't do that. Aiden has to go do math homework. I am so sorry for you, but it is an important skill that I wish I was better at. Wolf Girl said, what medium do you think is most fun, and which do you think is the hardest to work with? Also wanted to say you're my biggest idol. Oh, thank you. Most fun medium. Right now, I'm a little obsessed with watercolor pencils. But it depends on when you ask me, because from one day to the next, I will change my mind. But I'm really excited and anxious to do more with the watercolor pencils. I loved those. Inktense, I love them all, honestly. Colored pencil, regular colored pencil can be a challenge in patience. So if I'm not in a patient mood, that is not a fun medium to work in. But if I am, then it's nice and relaxing. So yeah, it really just depends on when you ask, for sure. Right now, I'm really definitely obsessed with watercolor pencils. For the hardest to work with, when teaching, like I can take it back to what students were challenged with the most when I teach. Acrylic painting was always a challenge because it dries so quickly. That was the problem that a lot of students had. It was trying to learn how to paint quickly enough and still get the look they wanted and blending and that sort of thing. So acrylics can be a bit of a challenge, but if you have a bad layer, it's so easy to let it dry and go right on top of it. So that kind of makes up for that. Colored pencils, again, going back to having to have patience for a new students, that would sometimes be one of the more difficult mediums just because of the patience factor, because it's such a slow medium to work in. But not that it's really hard. I think it just depends on the artist themselves. The art illustration says he loves my reflection. Thank you. Scott said, my 9-year-old daughter wants to know how old you were when you first painted on canvas. I had a paint by number kit that I didn't like the draw. I forget what the paint by number was for, but I remember that I painted over whatever the paint by number was. It was oil paint. It was some sort of like a canvas, and I was probably about your daughter's age, but I painted orca, because I've been obsessed with marine life forever. But I painted an orca, which was funny because I didn't have blue, so it was like green water, just because that's what I had available in those little tubes of paint. But I was probably about her age when I did that, and then I didn't paint on canvas again until I think my senior year in high school, when I got into that AP studio art class where they provided you with the supplies. And so I remember getting to paint on canvas then. No, I was junior in high school, and I did this weird, it was one of those paintings that they would take like one photograph. Mine in this case was a frog. They took a frog and they chopped it into like 9 different pieces, and each student painted one of those things, but we didn't know what it was going to be. We just had to copy exactly. You were looking at it, looked like an abstract, but if you didn't copy it exactly, they wouldn't line up when they were all put together, where we got to reveal at the end what our painting was. So yeah, my junior year in high school, so I would have been what, 16, I think 17, 16 was the first time that I got to paint on canvas. Jessica said, yes, just right before and just after. Storm clouds are the best. At least grab some reference photos if you can't get out. It'll be too hot and mosquito filled soon with summer. You know, pro tip for you guys that do want to go out and you don't want to be eaten by mosquitoes. I don't have it sitting right here. Go, and the only one that works is the one from the Body Shop. But go to the Body Shop and get their mango body butter. It repels mosquitoes and it smells amazing. You guys may not want to smell that fruity, but it smells better than the mosquito spray. But it's what I use, like my normal body, like my normal lotion I use all the time. Bath & Body Works has one called Endless Summer, I believe, and they told me that it repels mosquitoes. We haven't had enough mosquitoes to really test it yet, but that one smells really good too. But my favorite is definitely mango body butter from the Body Shop. Stock up on that stuff because you won't have to worry about mosquitoes at all anymore. It's absolutely amazing, and it smells so good. Amara said, I hate watercolor pencils, but I love to buy watercolor paints, mostly because I became determined to learn how to use them correctly. I understand that. So, you know, there's always going to be different mediums that we just don't connect with. And it's funny because I'll have people who get irritated with me because I don't like something that they like. And it's like, it's personal preference. Like I had people really mad that I don't like water-soluble oil paint. It's not the same. I like normal oil paint. Personal preference, but like people will get super angry if you don't like what they like. It's kind of funny. But I know what you mean. Like sometimes there's just a medium that you'll use and it's like, it just isn't working for me. And then you may change your mind. I mean, I thought that watercolor pencils, I was like, nope, I'm not going to be interested in these. And now I think that they're super fun. So, yep. I always reserve the right to change my mind. That pastels are, actually, I was contacted by Pam Pastels. I need an email. They contacted me while I was doing the vacation thing. I say doing the vacation thing. I was just ignoring my emails and not working. But, they contacted me about reviewing some of theirs. And I'm like, you guys are always bugging me to use the Pam Pastel. So I may go ahead and let them send me stuff, have them send me some stuff to play with. Maybe I'll decide I like them, but I don't know. So, but yeah, they contacted me and I'm like, I feel like I would be betraying you guys if I didn't go ahead and take them up on using them because you guys ask me to use them all the time. But yeah, Pix by Lee said, are we ever going to be in danger of some other color like orange or yellow? We're taking teal as your favorite color. Probably not. Green and teal are my two, like those are my absolute favorites. I like highlights of oranges, and that's what I'm hopefully going to have in this one, with the sunset scene inside a scene thing. But no, I don't see my favorite color ever changing, other than maybe to green. I could see it shifting from green to teal because I love both, like lime green and sage green. Sage green I was a huge fan of for a long time. Lime green and teal are kind of my things I'm in love with right now. But no, I don't see that danger coming anytime soon. Let's see. Okay, so I want to get a shadow. I don't want to jump straight to black though because that's too much of a dead color for what I'm trying to do. So I actually want to I'll add a little bit of black, but I want to darken this up. I'm going to even pull some of that in there. I'll put a little bit of black. Now I need to make sure that as I do this, I do not want to add white into this, even a little bit, unless I want gray. I will get a muddy gray color if I add white. So you've got to be careful when you're mixing with black or you're playing with white. Make sure don't accidentally get black into something that you don't want gray, or accidentally get white into something that you don't want gray. If those two colors, because I did add some of that gray, it would give me a very muted, dull color if I added to this. Victoria said, back when you were teaching in class, how did you manage to get students and how long did they stick around? I'm running out of ideas on how to get them to stay longer than 3 months. 3 months is actually pretty average. I had some that were with me for years, but for the most part, most students, 3 months was not unusual. You just have to keep getting new students in. And a lot of students, I mean, I did, like I said, I've had people that were there for years, and the way that I taught, people would come and go. So they might disappear for 6 months and then come back. Like life gets in the way, or they lose interest in art and then decide it'll be something fun to do again. But 3 months is a pretty average, what I experienced as well, right around there. Besides the few that were like, I'm going to do this for years as long as you're teaching. But you have to constantly get new students in, definitely. Make sure you're advertising, whether that advertisement be on your own website, so it's coming up on Google. You might advertise in Craigslist. You've got to make sure that you're continuously advertising so that you get those new students in, because they're not going to stay forever. I mean, Patreon's really the same way. You do get a drop-off where, whether it be people's financial situation changes, their jobs change, something changes where they don't have time to paint, or they're just not as interested anymore, or they want to try a different teacher, a different class. I mean, you're always going to have that, and the only way to keep up is to continuously make sure you're getting in new people. It's easy. I found this to be the case. It was easy for me to get kind of lazy about advertising, because it's like, okay, I've got a lot of students, I'm good now. But if you're not constantly bringing in those new students, those ones that you currently have are probably not going to be there forever. So what you're experiencing wasn't much different than what I did. You just have to constantly get the new ones in. But you can put ads in Craigslist sometimes. Sometimes they get flagged and taken out. That was definitely one way that worked for me. Making sure that my website, I needed information on the website. Take pictures if your students are cool with you posting photos of them. Show what the classroom looks like, that it's fun. If you can get video of a class, that may be a good way. If you can put that on your website to get more people wanting to sign up when they see that everyone's having fun, and it's like, hey, I want to be a part of that. I don't like how blue that is. That is definitely going to need more teal, but whatever. It's good enough for now. How do I feel about Redbubble? I don't use it myself. I mean, it's similar. It's a print-on-demand type site. So I don't use, like, I use Fine Art American. I don't use the social aspect of it. I know a lot of people do. I don't. It's just where my prints are. Like, anytime a print sells, it's like it notifies people, or it shows up on something on Fine Art America, so I'll get a bunch of people going, congratulations on your sale. And it's funny because I'll get those messages, but I don't get the message that I sold a new print. Thanks, spam filter. You're not doing your job very well. You're doing the opposite of your job. But I'm just going to use a damp brush. That was not blending well. Anyway, I don't use the social aspect of even Fine Art America, so I can't really say. I'm not sure if using it would make a difference in sales with prints. It's just, I mean, it's just my print shop. So it's not where, I mean, if somebody wants to talk to me about the art, that is not the place to do it. So I'm not sure, because I know Redbubble has a social aspect as well. I have no idea how good or not good it is. Melissa said, what do you use to protect your graphite pencil works? A fixative. I actually have one, I think by Winsor & Newton, that I just got. I haven't used it yet. I've used Krylon in the past. A matte fixative. Christina said, be brave. Those pan pastels are your friends. Like, try wearing rubber gloves. I hate wearing gloves, though. Love the Dolphins and can't wait to see the finished work. Thanks. What do I use for my graphite? What do you use for your graphite pencil works? I suppose graphite is not the answer you're looking for there. I think I need more information for that question. Will said, are you familiar with Greg Crayola Simpkins' work? Very different style to yours, but it's very similar to techniques. No, I am not. Sean said, have you ever used glass medium versus glazing in acrylic? Well, I don't use, what is mine? This is the one that I use. I've pretty much always used that one. If I'm going to use a glazing medium, the Liquitex, the one with the green label. That is my go-to. Now, I have a gloss varnish that I put on after, but I actually don't like the gloss. I'm shedding. I don't like the gloss on my work as I'm painting, because when there's a high gloss, the charcoal pencil when you draw things out, doesn't stick very well, for one thing. And then the high gloss also makes it a little bit more of a challenge to photograph. DJ said, how do you do the background for this piece? How did you do it? A spray bottle and water. I misted it, threw on my teal, threw on some white, and flicked paint, and just kind of let the water make it run together. You'll see it. I've got it recorded, so you guys will end up seeing how exactly I did it. Okay, and it'll be a few weeks before this. I'm so behind on videos right now. Like, it's ridiculous. I have to get caught up. I've got to do the Peacock marker, the Winsor & Newton, or not, I'm sorry, the Karen Dosh watercolor. Words, they're hard. And the Marco something colored pencils. They never got back to me. I was waiting because they wanted to have a phone call, and then they never got back to me, and then I just kind of keep forgetting about it. So I just need to release it with what I experienced. And if they wanted me to know more information, they should have called me back. So I'm just going to go ahead and glaze that blue over those highlights. Definitely too blue. I'm going to have to pull some teal into that. Let's see. Actually, you know what I need is some transparent mixing white. Now, transparent mixing white's a really nice color to have because it'll lighten something up without giving you that super foggy look. And I've got this in the Liquitex Heavy Body that dries so fast like all the other heavy body paints. So this I may regret this because this is already starting to dry. I probably should let it dry a bit more. The word is leaving me. I'm going to be brave and just let's see what happens. It's an adventure. Oh, that's okay. Because there was a possibility when I added this highlight that it would have lifted off the previous layers because it was starting to dry enough. But this is actually working out just fine. But transparent mixing white is one of those, it's not opaque at all, obviously, it has the word transparent in it, but you can lighten something without getting that foggy look. It's a really, like, definitely one of my must-have colors of paint. This is blending weirdly well for how dry this is. I think it's because it's so humid in here. It's not as dry as it normally would be in that amount of time. Okay. Said months ago I painted dome fishes, but after some time, to get white portion of the fish started to turn blue, and now it looks kind of like a disaster. I even tried to varnish it, still no help. Huh. Weird. Oh, I have no idea why that happened. So the transparent mixing white does have a very blue tint to it. It is a very cool white, so be aware of that. There we go. Starting to get a bit of a dry brush look here where the paint, if I add more water, it's definitely going to lift what I've done here, but I'm getting this bumpy dry brush look. I'm going to have to let that set a bit. Artur said, when you glazed, you usually glaze over lights. I glaze over lights and darks. It depends on what I'm doing. I definitely don't have like a rule. It has to be one way or another. I mean, you saw me glaze over here over dark, and you've seen me glaze over here over the lights. So it just depends on what I'm trying to do. Mary wants to know, when I use my mop brush, do I go in circles or back and forth? I go in every direction. Sometimes this way, sometimes this, like all over the place. Because the goal of a mop brush is to get rid of those brush strokes. I'm not trying to blend one color into another. I'm trying to soften out the brush strokes. And to do that, it usually works best if I go all directions. Charlie said, when someone tells me to stop acting like a flamingo, that's when I put my foot down. It's a good rule to have. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Okay, Sandra said, when you use the mop brush, does it matter that you let the paint dry on the bristles? Yeah, you don't want paint drying on the bristles. If you do, like, okay, this one, I don't know if you can see, it's got a little bit of a blue tint on it. But it's just stained. It's not dry paint. Dry paint, it's going to make the bristles stiff, and that's going to create brush strokes instead of taking them away. So you do not want paint drying on this. You want to make sure you keep this clean and dry and ready to go all the time. But good question. Thu said, have you ever used just larger, like 2-inch brushes for just to get a loose feel for the entire piece? That was a grammatical mess, sir. That was very hard to read. Yes, actually, I do. I have, let's see, I've got a bunch down here. Yeah, and even here, you can see I've got the big, I think that was actually a 2-inch brush. You can see some of my brush. Oh, I lied. You can't see it, but they're there. You'll see that on the finished painting. But I mean, I do have brush strokes all over. Sometimes I do, the main paintings that I've done that are is if I want a more impressionistic style. But even then, I don't usually go up to 2 inches. They're making fun of me because I didn't know something or another was a joke. Yeah, Mary said she bought a mop brush, the mop brush that I use, the makeup brush, and it seems to be making brush strokes. You've got a few reasons will happen. One, if you're pushing too hard, you want to make sure you're keeping your hand at the back and keep a very loose hand. You want just the tips of those bristles to touch the canvas. If you are pushing hard, see how my bristles are moving? You can see right there. I'd be pushing way too hard. You shouldn't even be able to feel it touch the canvas. It's almost just this little bit of a wisp. If you can feel the paintbrush touching the canvas, you're pushing too hard. If you have paint on there and you go like this on your hand or a paper towel and you've got brush or paint strokes, you're pushing too hard. You're getting too much paint on that brush. So yeah, that's usually going to be the cause of that. And that takes a little bit of getting used to. Oh, I guess the flamingo was a G-rated joke. Okay. Ha-ha. I don't know. I'd have to scroll back. Let's see. The dolphins are looking good. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Need that to dry. I can start... Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start with a smaller brush, and I'm going to start getting some of the other colors that I want to get for the highlights on these dolphins. Because I don't want them to blend this much into the background. I definitely want to pull more of the oranges and some magentas into them. So... and I don't have the brush that I need. Maybe I'm not going to do that. Huh. How do I not have that brush over here? Oh, wait. Here we go. Was in the wrong spot. I actually don't even know. It must have been there for months because I haven't used this brush in a while. I am lucky that was out. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I just want to get some of these lighter tones. So I'm going to go with this a bit more with the transparent mixing white. Liquitex, Sarah Mixart said Liquitex heavy body and soft body also have a transparent burnt, and raw sienna. They have a lot of transparent colors, lots and lots and lots of them. I mean, most of the colors, these are both translucent. Actually, all of these three are translucent. The only ones that really aren't, there's certain yellows that are opaque, certain greens that are opaque, and then the white, unbleached titanium white and black. The rest of them are fairly fairly opaque. Translucent words. They're hard. I'm getting really tired. Yay, warrior potato on a unicorn. I don't know who this person is, but they have the best name ever. So I get excited when I see it. Our chicken and Nugget still makes them laugh, getting along. They're good. Nugget's kind of a funny bird. Nugget thinks, like, when he goes up to you with his mouth open, which for any other bird looks like a sign of aggression. He just touches everything with his open beak. He never bites hard. So Chicken sees this teeny tiny little hummingbird-sized bird coming at him like, he thinks he's going to get bit, and he takes off. He runs. Chicken's not a huge fan. They get along okay. I mean, I don't leave them alone together, but they get along okay. Nugget and his let's charge everything with my beak open thing as a little... I've never seen a bird do that. It's the oddest thing, him and that open beak. But... they get along okay. It's kind of cool. We have this food for them, or it's more of a treat, called Nutriberries. And Chicken's never really liked them, but Nugget has taught him that they're the best thing ever. Nugget will eat anything that isn't nailed down. And things, actually, he'll eat the nail too. Nugget will eat everything. But, yeah, they're doing really well. They're unhappy because they got to spend more time out of their cage when my husband was on vacation. So now they're back onto their normal schedule, and I don't think they're thrilled about it. I don't know how much of this peach color I'm going to leave in the end. I'm just kind of playing with it. This is one of the reasons that I love acrylics so much. I can just play with stuff. It dries so quickly. If it doesn't come out well, who cares? Just paint over it. It's not going to hurt anything. Mary said, didn't your parents raise parrots? Yep. They did. And none of them acted like Nugget. We never had a parrotlet, so I don't know if that's like a normal thing with that type, but it's really funny to watch this little bird. He's tiny, like super tiny, and he has a personality of our big birds, and he acts like an Amazon, minus well, he can't be as destructive because he has a smaller beak, but very, very different than chicken, that's for sure. But he's so funny because he walks towards everything with his beak open. Like he's got to taste everything. And he's gentle. When he does it, he doesn't actually bite things, but to another bird, I understand why chicken sees that, and he's like, that bird is coming after me to bite me, because that's what it looks like. It's really odd. I'm just getting these blotches of color. Now I do need to start watching. Some of these are a bit too thin. I need to get a little bit more paint on that brush on some of this. I'm going to go ahead and start pulling some of that teal in too. I'm not happy with how purple I've got it right now. So teal, the way you mix teal, just an easy formula. This is the one thing I'll give you a formula on. Basically, it's 50% phthalo blue, 50% phthalo green. Like it's just half and half with those two, and you'll get a real nice teal color. John Reed asked, how often can you use a mop brush before needing to clean it? As soon as it's wet, as soon as you go like this on your hand and you're getting paint on, it's time to clean it. So I always have several mop brushes ready to go because you may not be done. You may need to keep mopping stuff out and cleaning, doing stuff, but one of your brushes isn't, you know, starts to get wet. It starts creating brush strokes instead of taking them away. So I always have lots of mop brushes ready. Okay, this color is way better. Then we'll come back through with some of those rays of light or reflections. I think it needs more green. This may be too much. We'll find out. Yeah, that's too much. That's okay. We're having some rainbow dolphins. Let's see. Sarah Mixart said Liquitex heavy body and soft body also. Oh, I already answered that. We have that delay that always makes things a little bit confusing. Okay, so I don't actually need this to be dry before I do the rays of light on here again, or reflection. I do need to find my paintbrush though. Huh. Oh, there it is. So let's go ahead and start pulling some more of this on him. Okay, I'm going to leave him alone for now. I'll actually end up glazing a bit. Let's do a little bit of a backlight up that fin. And start working on the mess that is this dolphin. He needs more transparent. Oh, I've got a lot of shadows and highlights to work on before I can put the rays of light on him. Okay. Now if your canvas is smooth enough, you can get away with almost dry brushing, kind of, without it really looking like dry brushing. But your canvas has to be pretty smooth to make that work. Where this guy should work. Okay, so I've got to add a lot of highlights. Actually, I think I'm going to even use, need to warm that up. I'm not just going to jump straight to transparent mixing white. Let's get some highlights in here because I need to warm that up a bit for what I'm trying to do. And I'll end up glazing over it, but I'm not getting the look I want just with the transparent mixing white. So let's smudge that out. There's too much water on this brush. Okay, the base layer on here isn't totally dry, and I can already feel it's going to pick up weird, so I'm going to let that go. This looks terrible, but I'm going to come on top of that with the hair dryer, because as much as it felt dry to the touch, it's not. I'm getting a little bit of a tacky feel. I can feel, like, it's one of those things that you'll learn to feel with the brush, but only after you mess things up a million times and you just get to where you're like, it's kind of like flicking yourself with a rubber band. You'll train yourself not to do it just because it's like, oh, now I have to fix that. So I can just feel the way the paint is catching on that. And there is no, like, book that is going to write it out or video that's going to teach you that. That only comes from experience when you get to the point where you can feel like, oh, that feels a little bit weird. I know this needs to stop and dry. So make sure you're, like, when you hear someone say something like that, don't feel discouraged or think that they're wasting a bunch of time looking for some magic mystery answer for it. So much of painting is only going to happen when you paint more. You've got to get to the easel and you've got to paint more. So plug your ears. This is going to be obnoxious. Still a little bit tacky. Sedant, am I saying that right? Said, I'm actually thinking to start oils. Any suggestions? Don't overblend. That's a big one. I've got a few videos, like the beginning intro to oil painting. Watch that. That'll help. I think it was a green apple I did on that one. But overblending, the biggest problem that people have with oils is learning when to stop and let it dry and then go back on the next day. It's easy because they blend so well. You'll do a couple brush strokes and you're like, oh, this looks really good. It's all nice and blended. So obviously that means I need more, right? And you keep blending and blending and blending until you get to a point where you don't have any lights and darks. It's all one muddy mess. So that's usually the biggest challenge people have with oils is overblending. The other thing, if you've got birds, don't paint in the same room with them. It is toxic and the fumes will or can kill them or make them sick. What else? Don't use your hands. Like, you've got to get used to being clean with oils because, like I said, a lot of those paints have lead in them or have different things. And you can get non-toxic varieties of certain things, but I know a lot of the ones I have zinc, have different things in them that I really don't want soaking into my skin, but I still want to use those paints. So you have to get used to not, like here with acrylics, I can be lazy and rest my hand on the canvas. You cannot do that with oils. Now, you can get a maul stick. Mine's back there. It's too hard to get to. But it's basically a stick. You could even use an old broomstick that you tie something soft to the end. But you can rest it against the edge of the canvas. So here's the stick, here's my hand, and that's what, you know, my hand is resting on this instead of, I feel like I'm doing that Twister game, instead of resting on the canvas like you would with acrylic. You want to get used to being very clean with your artwork. Another tip, Viva paper towels, V-I-V-A, paper towels. That is the only brand of paper towels that I really like that work well. They're very cloth-like. I don't like them for acrylics, but I love them for oils. Either that or old t-shirts, old rags will work as well. And yeah, oh, and I hate terpenoid. Or basically anything except odor. I use Mona Lisa odorless mineral. Wow, none of that came out right. Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits because it doesn't have a strong odor to them. Like then when I paint, I smell the fumes from my paint, but not from the paint thinner. Some of those paint thinners, the terpenoid's one of the worst. Terpenoid, regular turpentine, all of that stuff. The smell is so strong, it's like instant headache. So I've never had a problem with headaches or not feeling well when I was around normal paint fumes, but with some of the paint thinners, they really did cause problems for me. I mean, to the point where I had to tell students, you can't bring those supplies to class. Like either use Mona Lisa odorless or don't come to class. Like I can't be in this room. It was that severe with some of those. Even like the natural variety of things. The scent gave me such an instant headache, I couldn't tolerate them. So I'm a big fan of the Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits. Sarah Makes Art said I removed my original comment because I wanted to edit it, so I ended up posting it twice. Oh, okay. Let's see, Gail, that makes more sense now. I thought it was the weird time thing. I'm like, are we going back in time? There's something weird happening here. This is like the start of a horror book or one of my fantasy books. There's a really weird delay with YouTube, or with the YouTube, the comments. I'll say something, I'll answer the question, and then the question will show up. Either the person repeats it because they didn't hear it yet, because there's such a long delay, they don't know I actually answered it. So it's like time travel. It's kind of weird. Gail said, just curious, have you ever worked in stained glass? No, but I have used the, what is it called? Gallery glass by Plaid, I think makes it. And it's where you paint, it looks just like stained glass. I actually have it on my bathroom mirror. I always do the edges of the mirrors. I love how it looks because it looks like real stained glass. I've had people who did real stained glass who saw some of the work I did with it, and they had to look twice to tell that it wasn't real. I mean, you had to like get up close because they were fooled at first glance. I mean, not when they look up close, but anyway, I've done that. I've done glass painting, but I've never done actual stained glass. Am I a Harry Potter fan? Way too much. Yes, I am. I'm a dork. Actually, that's one of the songs we've been trying to teach Chicken, is the Harry Potter, one of the songs from Harry Potter. But it's so slow. He likes the faster songs, so he's not super into that one yet. Sapphire wants to know my favorite animal. Sapphires are wolves. They're so misunderstood. People portray them as evil demons. There's a video, one from Yosemite, I think, or that area, where it talks about, I get goosebumps every time I watch it. Wolves, what a difference it made to the environment, because they had taken away from the wolves. There was now no longer the natural predator in the wild, and like the deer population took over. But basically bringing back the wolves, which kept the deer population under control, it allowed the actual riverbanks to change. It changed the whole environment actually changed because they brought wolves back into that. It gives me goosebumps. If you have not looked that up, see if you can find one on wolves in Yosemite, I think. It was, or Yellowstone. Maybe it was Yellowstone. I don't know. One of those. It's amazing. I love wolves. My favorite animal? Pretty obsessed with anything, dolphins and whales. They'd probably be my favorite. Orcas and well, orcas are dolphins, but dolphins, I would say. No, and humpback whales too. So yes, I'm sticking with dolphins and whales would be my favorite. Warrior Potato on a Unicorn said, what Hogwarts house are you in? The yellow one. Wow, my brain just said, no, I'm not giving you this information right now. I think it was because of my answer, how much I like animals, that put me in that one. And I cannot think of the name right now. Someone can tell me, because I don't remember. My thoughts on water mixable oils. I don't like them. I prefer normal oils. Any suggestions on the best way to paint a quote on a canvas? I was thinking contact paper. Yeah, write it out. Like what I'll do if it's a quote, because you need it to be super straight, I will either take a charcoal pencil and draw my lines and then hand write the writing on it so that I can keep everything nice and straight, or I will print it out and then use a projector to project it onto the canvas. You can also use tracing and transfer paper to transfer the quote onto it. It depends on how big you need it. It is Yellowstone, not Yosemite. Yeah. JBC 13 Art said he's Slytherin. I'm not surprised. Actually, Slytherin, I have a Slytherin, what do I have something that's Slytherin. Someone gave me. I don't remember what it is now. Let's see. Arter said, OMS drying time is slower than Terp, and some mediums like Damar would only thin properly with Terp. The alternative is odorless turpentine. So here's the thing. With the turpentines, I only use them to clean my brushes. I don't paint with them. I paint with my mixing medium, which is liquid. So it doesn't affect my drying time at all. Like I said, I just use them to, there are very, very few times I'll use paint thinner to thin my actual paint. I just use it for cleanup. That's just how I paint. Ravenclaw, is that, no. What's the other one? Ravenclaw? Hufflepuff, that's what I am, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. This should be dry enough. Did I say it? I don't even remember if I took the hairdryer to this. I said I needed to, and I stopped, and I don't think I did. And just in case, I'm going to do it again, because I'd rather not risk it. I've got a lot of questions coming up again on how I did the background. You'll see this. I have explained it a couple times in the video, or today, but you'll see how I did it in the full video that goes up. I did record it. Hopefully it recorded well, because how much time do I have on? Oh, no, I'm good. Okay, so now I need to go, I really need to highlight a lot of stuff on this guy. So I'm going to over highlight it and then glaze on top of it. It's going to give me more of the look that I'm going for here. So I'm actually going to go pretty opaque. Oh, need more water. See what's happening, if you can see it. I don't know how clear this is, but I'm getting little dots of the canvas showing through. That let me know I need more water and paint on my brush. Gail said, I let my family know the Viva is off limits. It's mine. I always get like a 6-pack or whatever they come in a pack, and I keep them in the cupboard, and I always, like, I'll start to panic when I run out of my regular, I think the regular ones we use is like Bounty or one of those. I'll start to panic, like, I need to clean, I need paper towels, and I don't have any. Even though my Viva, I've got rolls of Viva that'll last me forever that are up in the cabinet, but I like can't bring myself to use them for regular cleanup. It's like, it's my art towel. So this is a bit rough. It doesn't look amazing, but that's okay. It will, when I start glazing over it, it'll fix a bunch of this. I've basically thinned that down too much. But it'll be fine. Lan said, I love from Singapore. Love your channel and inspire work. Thanks. In the middle of a career change and nothing to do while job searching, so I picked up colored pencil art. That's awesome. Sapphire wants to know, or Sapphire, I can talk. Sapphire wants to know where I can send a photo of my painting for advice. Not to me. I don't have time. That sounds terrible, but I just don't. So I know because of the critique videos, I think I haven't done those in a while. I'm not even going to advertise where you can send those because I don't know when I'm going to get back into that. But you can join our Facebook art group. I have a link in the video description, and other wonderful artists there can give you some advice. But don't send it to me because I probably won't get back to you. Not because I hate you or that I'm just being a jerk, but because there is absolutely no time. If I answered, like, gave everyone advice, like, I would love to have, you know, if there were more hours in the day to give everyone advice. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to paint. I wouldn't be able to do anything else. So, I mean, there's that many requests. So the only way that I can handle that is just to not offer individual help at all. I tried for a while offering a service that people could pay for to have like a one-on-one critique session, but I don't even have time for that. So it's not even a financial thing. I just don't have time. There's no way for me to fit that in, unfortunately. So I'm sorry, but you can join our art group, and there are lots of artists there that can give you some tips. Just make sure you read the rules before you post. People like to join, and they get all excited, and they don't read the rules, and it gets deleted, then they get mad. Read the rules. It's a good group, though, because we keep up on stuff, and there's some awesome artists in there. Gail said, it's so fun getting cut and burn makes you feel... Huh? What are you talking about? Oh, I think you're talking about stained glass again. I'm like, what? You're cutting and burning yourself? That's okay. But I think, pretty sure that goes back to the stained glass. Dolphin's back looks so nice. So real, nice effects. Thanks. So this is starting to dry. I probably should have kept painting before it dried all the way, but whatever. Got a little bit too much water right now, so I've got to be careful as I blend that. Oh, no, it's okay. Okay, for this part that I need to lighten, I'm just going to use my transparent mixing white, so I'm going to rinse that brush off. Just grab some of that in a separate pile. Smudge that out. This brush has a tiny bit of water on it. It's otherwise clean. There's no paint on it. I'm just smudging that out. It's going to look rough right now, but because I'm going to glaze over this, that'll soften everything down. So it is bad as it makes it look like, oh, you just ruined all the blending. It's okay. That once I glaze over it, all of that'll come back together. Okay, let's see what else I want to do on him right now. He needs to set a bit. I guess I can kind of draw in where his mouth is going to go. Jesse said, which solvent do you recommend for blending colored pencil on Strathmore sketch paper? I started a graphite drawing and I want to add a colorful blurry background. I like the Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits or Gamsol. Gamsol costs a little bit more. It's supposed to be less toxic. I'm not a scientist. I can't tell you if that's true or not, just based on what they say. Neither one have any, like I can't smell either one really. So my favorite, again, Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits or Gamsol. Lan Fear asked, how excited are you for the new Lightfast range from Derwent coming out approximately in July? Seriously excited. That is, I don't know, I haven't tried them at all yet, but I'm so hoping that they're similar to the performance of Pro Color, because the Pro Color were one of my favorite. If Pro Color were all Lightfast, that would be pretty much the only pencil I feel like I would need, but they're not, so there's that. But I'm hoping that they're close. I have no idea though. Sapphire wants to know if I have ever played the violin. That's a weird way to word that. If so, for how long? I used to play well for a while, and then I changed to photography. Yes, I am. I've been a violinist since I was 9 years old. Although I don't know if at 9 you could have called me a violinist. I hold an instrument and make horrible sound player for a very long time. But yeah, I am a violinist, and you can hear on some of my older videos I've got a lot of music with me playing. And I'm throwing my brush on the floor. But yeah, I've played since I was 9, so a really long time. But I haven't played in no, I have played in the last year, just not much. I have plans that I want to record, so I need to get to that soon. Okay, let's see. I'm waiting for that to dry again. I could just stop being lazy and use the hairdryer. Oh, you know what? It's 9:52. I'm going to be done painting for now. I'm definitely getting to where I've been sitting here for too long, so I'm kind of losing interest. So I'll just answer a couple more questions for you guys a little bit more. Oh, yeah, Joseph said, look up speed painting, little girl portrait, time-lapse oil painting by Lachri. Yeah, that was one of my first videos. That one's me on violin. And even if you go back older, there's some scratch tracks with me with my old band, so those sound even better. Much better. Charlie wants to know what Lightfast is. Lightfast is the term that we use, or the ratings that we use to determine how long a color will last before it fades. So with colored pencils, you've got colored pencil watercolor especially, you have a lot of problems like some of the reds, pinks, oranges, or not oranges, well, some of the oranges, purples especially, some of the blues are really bad, where within maybe 6 months to 2 years they could fade if it's really poor Lightfast quality. If it's high Lightfast, it may last up to 100 years in normal museum conditions. They say lighting, so you want something that is very light fast so that your artwork lasts a really long time and doesn't fade. Not typically a problem that we see a lot with oils or acrylics, and all the acrylics I have are light fast. It's not something that I've ever had to worry about with those, but with colored pencil, watercolor, Inktense, a lot of those, they're definitely something you want to be aware of. Yeah, Lampier said, I would think professional artists who love their Derwents, the new Lightfast range would be great. I'm hoping so. As long as they're not like color soft. It wouldn't matter to me how Lightfast color soft were. That's not happening for me. So I'm really hoping it's like the Pro Color. Can I bring chicken in? I don't want to because I've got the paint out, and while I'm pretty sure none of these have cadmium or anything in them, I don't want to risk with the acrylics. I'm more comfortable with him when I've been, what was that? When I've been working with like pencils, that's a lot safer, but with paint I don't like to bring him in here. I don't want to risk his little chicken life. The acrylics are probably fine. I'm just being paranoid, but I'm so freaking attached to that bird that I don't want to risk it. Let's see. Whoops. Pop-up that needs to go away. Jesse said, which would you prefer for wildlife art? Derwent Graphite Tint or regular Derwent graphite pencils? Regular. The Graphite Tint are interesting. They're fun to play with, but I can get a more realistic look with their regular graphite. The Graphite Tint, they've got poor Lightfast ratings from what I understand, and I don't remember what they are because I actually didn't look it up on Derwent, but I've read a lot of negative reviews. Although, so this is a funny thing. If any of you have the Scrawl box, it's kind of like Smart Art Box, but it's smaller sample size and not, I don't think it has, it doesn't come with a art lesson like Smart Art Box does, but they recently featured me with the Graphite tints on those. So you can see, those of you who are that, you've got a little print of one of my things, but it's fun. It gives you a cool look. It looks almost like an old photograph. So there are definitely things that I like about the Graphite tint, but if I want to go super realistic, I'm going to go with my regular Graphite. Let's see. Lanfear said, I must say I've tried the Pro Color and find them quite hard, not as vibrant. Which is weird, you know, and I've heard a few people say that. I don't think they lay, I think I don't layer enough. Yeah, that's probably what it is. I bet it's a difference in layering, because you can see, if you go and look at my review on those, I did a leopard, and those colors were seriously vibrant. Like, I had no problem getting them to be very vibrant, but I didn't need as many layers, which was nice. Like, it was so pigmented. I really loved them. The paper that you use can make a difference, too. Sedan said, I just realized to use the hairspray for my Polychromos too. Why would you put a hairspray on those? You don't even need to seal Polychromos. You honestly, I don't put any sealer on. If it's just Polychromos, unless it's Polychromos with like powder blender, that has to be sealed. But just Polychromos on their own, I don't seal them with anything. So they don't need it. So yeah, definitely no hairspray. Sass wants to know how hubby's bonding with the parrotlet. Really well. The parrotlet thinks I'm the delivery service. Like, now he'll come out in the cage, but only because he knows I'm going to take him to the cage over to my husband. But he has no real interest in me at all. He's definitely my husband's bird. It's perfect. It worked out so well, because Chicken was so attached to me. I think it hurt my husband's feelings because it was supposed to be his bird. So it's nice that he's got his own little bird now, and he doesn't get frustrated that Chicken makes it very obvious he prefers me. So it was, getting that bird really was a good idea, a good move. And we didn't get it thinking that it was going to be a bird for my husband to bond to. It was just, you know, we wanted a bird in the room to keep Chicken company. But oh no, he is so, they are both, him and that bird are so attached to each other. It's so cute. What type of light would I recommend for someone that is limited for painting indoors? I really like, and I might be in the video description. Let's find out. This dolphin without anything on it's kind of creepy looking, isn't he? He'll look better when I'm done. Let me see if I put it. It might be in the description. It is. If you look at the video description where it says clamp light for my easel, that's the one that I'm using. It's less expensive than the Ott lights that I had, and I'm really happy with that. Let's pull the chat window back up. Whoops. Hold on one second. I just messed up my screen. Okay. Jesse said Faber-Castell 9000 graphite pencils or Derwent graphite. Ooh, hard one. The Derwent graphite, the thing that I really liked about them is they got super light, like 9H, 8H, which you would think, who needs that? It was actually really cool. I got some really cool blending on it. The the Faber-Castell, I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure which I prefer. Neighbors are making weird noises out there. I honestly don't know. They were both really good. They were both very similar. Those two are my favorite. Yeah, I can't say. Now, I think if I did more, I usually combine the two, but I would need to do more with just one and then just the other, like several pieces, I think, before I could give you a definite, I like one better than the other. They're very similar, though. Let's see. Tammy said, I just picked up the Faber-Castell Graphite Aquarelle, and I'm trying them out this week. Any tips? Start light to dark. They erase a little bit, but not much. So definitely start lighter than you think you want something to be, and just keep layering to build up to your darks. That would be my biggest tip for you. Best paper for colored pencil. Cold press always shows the grainy look, and hot press doesn't take enough pigment. I find it way too smooth. What to do? Well, it depends on which hot press. Hands down, hot press all the way for me. I do not like cold press. But I haven't tried the arches. I'm going to be trying that soon. The newest batches of the Fabriano Artistico is definitely on the smoother side, so I could see where that might be frustrating for a lot of people. I can't... It's weird. The pigment looks super bold, super fast, but I can't do as much layering, and it blends. It's different. You may like Stonehenge too, but not Stonehenge in the pads, because if you already don't like how smooth it is, the Stonehenge in the pads is very much like vellum. It's way too smooth. I like it for graphite, but not for colored pencil. But if you get the individual, the big sheets, and then just cut them down to the size that you want, I usually just cut them into 4 pieces. So I've got like 1 piece will give me 4 11 by 14s or close to it. But you might like the Stonehenge. I don't know for sure. And I'll let you know how the arches go. That'll be one that I test out soon. Oh, another one you might like. Get Can't Send Me Tans, use the back side or the smooth side. It's a little bit rougher than both of those, so you might like that. That's typically used for pastels, but that gives you a little bit more tooth, so that may be good, but you want to make sure to use the smooth side on that. Gail Perkins said, I found Studio Child at a few band sites. Yeah, that was my old band that I was in. Actually, the lead singer from that one, we're going to be doing music videos. We keep talking about, we haven't gotten to it. We wanted to do music videos for some of those old Stereo Child songs, but the scratch tracks where it was just like acoustic. We're going to be doing that and putting together some instrumental stuff. I just need to get off my butt and get stuff done. Len said, sorry if I keep hijacking the live chat. No, not at all. But I have a question about backgrounds. What kind of background would you use for a single object study? I'm afraid to leave so much white. So my suggestion would be to learn Photoshop or a photo editing tool like Pixlr, Pixlr. It's kind of a free version. It's not as good as Photoshop, but it can do a lot of the things that it does. But learn how to cut out backgrounds and try different backgrounds on. So whether it be something that you make out of focus. So like, let's say I did these dolphins. I know I want these dolphins, but I don't know what background. I can cut out the dolphins in Photoshop and try on different backgrounds, different colors, actually I did design a lot of this in Photoshop doing that because I was actually drawing on it. But you can try on different backgrounds to find out what's going to look best for you. But learn photo editing would be my biggest suggestion. And that way you can see what it will look like. Because sometimes like I could say, hey, red's going to look awesome with that. And then you put it up against red and realize, wow, that looks terrible. It looked way better in my head. So if you can do that in Photoshop first, that's going to be your best bet. Sadant wants me to do live streams on Sunday too. Probably never, because that's my husband's day off, so it's just not real practical for me. Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays are not days that I'm going to likely ever do live streams. I do have one for those on Patreon on this Saturday. We've got a special Patreon only live stream, a colored pencil. We're going to be drawing a tulip start to end. Well, we'll have it already drawn, but we're going to shade the tulip start to beginning on Saturday. So Saturdays I can sometimes do stuff, but not Sundays. I'm sorry. Fine Art Ann said, I love this. So cool effect in that water. Love, love. Thank you. I'm excited for how this is going to be. So this is my plan, being that we're sitting here and just chatting now instead of painting. I'm going to, once I get the dolphins painted in, I'll take a photo of this and then I'm going to take it into Photoshop and mess around with to see how I'm going to do it. I did a quick sketch last night in Photoshop, but I'll play with it a bit more. My plan is to have bands, like ribbons, wrapping through some of the dolphins and going through the background, breaking some of this up, that will be a really orange sunset, like orange and yellow sunset coming through, cutting through this. So it's a very abstract type feel. And then I'm going to take my glazing medium with teal and go over the background to make it deeper. But it's going, the light will refract through, so it should look really cool in person. But that's my plan with this one. I really want that splash of orange, but I'm going to need to pull more color in the dolphins, I think, to make them work with that orange. We'll see. I don't know. This is why when I do a lot of experimenting, acrylics are usually my go-to medium when it's something where I'm like, I really don't know for sure. Like, I don't have a set plan. I like acrylics because I can change my mind halfway through and completely change something. So like here, I didn't have to plan out where the orange goes. It's easy enough to throw that on top later, like the way that you can layer and completely cover stuff. That's why acrylics are definitely my go-to medium if I'm experimenting with things and I don't have a set plan. Yay, coffee. Let's see. And just a reminder, make sure to check out Valerie and Joseph, their channels. They're linked in the video description. They have been helping me. They always help me on my live streams. So much help. But their links are there. Check out their channels. They've got some really cool stuff. And both of them do live streaming too. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and I know Christian's been working. He's the lead singer of my old band, Stereo Child. He's the one that I'll be doing the videos with if we ever get to it. But he's got another project he's been working on. He's been working slowly at building his YouTube channel, teaching guitar lessons and stuff, so that's pretty cool. Landfair wants to know how my studio assistants are doing. They're good. They're actually in their crate and waiting for me to finish up so I can let them free. But I can't leave them out when I do live streams because as soon as I start talking, they get up and they always want something. They want to go back outside even though they were just outside. They always want something and I can't really do that on a live stream. So, or if one of them decides they're going to get sick, or I don't know. It's just too hard to have them loose. So right now they're sleeping. It's a big crate, so it's like a huge den for them. But yes, they're sleeping. They're both doing good. They both had dental work done, had to have some teeth removed last month. It was last month. Yeah, my bank account has not recovered from that, or taxes. But yeah, they're both doing really good. One of them, Jessie, the older one, studio assistant number 1, she is definitely getting deaf and blind, but she's super happy, so she doesn't seem to be aware, which works out fine. Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and wrap this up. My back would like for me to go stand up and walk around. So thank you guys so much for joining. I have no idea what next week is. You're used to me saying that, though. I never know what I'm doing the following week. I've gotten really bad about... I used to have everything so planned out, like last year when I had so many videos, everything was planned out, you know, a month in advance. And now I'm like last minute throwing stuff together like I did with this last night. But I'm kind of excited because sometimes that comes up with some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I have no idea what we're doing next week. It won't be marker. That's the only one I know, just because I recently did that. So I will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining. Again, if you are supporters over on Patreon, make sure to head over there. I've got the link over on Patreon to where the live stream will be located, so we can draw that, our tulip. That's going to be our Patreon video for this week. And yeah, that's it. Thank you again for joining, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.